Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. One of the things that we're going to talk about today has to do with what a startup early stage company would want to know about in terms of patent options out there. There's a lot of different things you can do with patent filings, so we're going to cover that today. My name is Jubin. I'm with Dana Legal Services. We focus on patents and trademarks and representing clients. And I have here with me today, JiNan. JiNan, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be here. I'm JiNan Glasgow George. I'm the founder and patent attorney at Neo IP, based in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. I've been practicing for 23 years, former examiner, recovered engineer. I also have a software company called Patent Forecast that we use for doing patent research analytics and visualization of patent data around a space. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let me jump in with a couple of questions. And these are common questions that I get asked, but I'll get to ask you these questions and then you can answer them. And then if I agree or disagree, we can have a little bit of debate and people can enjoy our dialogue.
Right.
So the first question I'd like to ask you is, let's say that a startup company or an early stage company comes to you and wants to know what are, let's say what are two things that they should know or consider or implement as part of their patent strategy. Of course, there's all the corporate stuff they got to do, but focusing on their IP patent strategy, what are two things that you would recommend?
I think the top two things I always start with clients on strategy for IP, especially patents, but also trademarks, is know how you're going to use this asset in your business. Why are you patenting? What will you use this patent for? Are you going to enjoy the exclusive rights, make it, use and sell it, keep others out of your space? Or is your sole goal out of the gate to license or to try to get some revenue from licensing and royalties or tech transfer? So knowing how you're going to use it, is it to block competition? So knowing what you're going to do with the asset. You do this with every other kind of asset in your business. You should do it with the most valuable assets that you have, your IP. So start there. That's number one. Number two is you need context, data around it, research and analysis of prior art so that you can differentiate your invention. You know, what is your likelihood of success? You build a higher quality application for patent in particular, also for trademark. If you know what's out there, you anticipate what an examiner would do, and you differentiate from it and build that in from the beginning. Those are the top two things for strategy that I advise clients.
So the number one strategy, if I was to summarize, is know what you want to do with the asset. And the second one is do some research, collect some data about how this asset's going to be protected, or are you meaning something more specific?
Yeah, I think it gives you a chance of likelihood of success. Is this going to be a very difficult prosecution? Is it going to be hard and lots of rounds with an examiner after you file, that prosecution being a heavy lift? Is it going to be a narrow patent? Is it really focused just around your space? It gives you a sense of what you're going to face, and then you can make a more informed decision about, is it still worth it? And de-risk what you're doing going forward, higher quality application, and then streamlining prosecution, hopefully a little more cost up front, less later.
And by prosecution, you mean dealing with the patent office and going through that process. Okay.
Right.
In the context of collecting or getting data, there's a bunch of tools out there. There's a bunch of different things out there. What are some patent analytic tools that can be used, and how do these things work?
Sure. You can always start for free at the patent office, uspto.gov. It feels like a DOS format to me a little bit, for those of you who remember that back in the day. It's still, it's not a very
operating system. Yeah.
Not a very user-friendly system in terms of getting results and analysis. There's, of course, Google Patents. There's lots of other softwares out there, PatSnap, Inography, and others. But I mean, we prefer our own, frankly. I launched a company, Neo Patents, in the early 2000s that used cladistics-based algorithms, so like evolutionary biology for patents. We've made a pivot so that now we have a dynamic software of our own, Patent Forecast. The reason I like that is because the patent data is new every week, new issued patents, new pubs, so we want to see what's happening. The reason I say see is because most people don't want to read hundreds of patent documents. They're tedious, takes a long time. And let's face it, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have time for that. You're the only person in the world who can be the CEO of your company. Don't do patent research on your own. There are many sources to get it from. Software makes it more efficient. You can also outsource. There are a lot of firms that use cheap labor in countries like India. And there, your results are going to be an Excel spreadsheet. You still have to read a lot of patents. What you really want, come on, let's face it, we're like the Google it. Hey Siri, you want the answer. So it's better if you can have someone who has a good track record, maybe a good software, so it's cost effective and efficient. You can get the answer fast and get a report with whatever data is supporting it that you can read that's actionable. You can take an action or make a decision. So it shouldn't be something that takes weeks or months. It shouldn't be expensive. It should cost less than $2,500 or so to get the answer you want. You know,
Oh,
hey,
okay.
Siri,
So that was my
is
next question
incredible.
for you is, what are some of the budgets you should set aside for doing these things? And I think you just made a point that sometimes people miss. Whatever money you spend should be to get the answer, not the data.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because
Okay. So speaking
yeah.
of costs and stuff, what are some of the things that you should budget for other than, preparing and filing the patent? You were talking about like doing a research to get data to decide. And you were saying those that you should be roughly around what again?
Yeah, you should expect to budget around $2,000, $2,500 for a patentability research analysis report that gives you this actionable data, the answer, right? What to
The
do
answer.
next? Is it likely to be successful? And then what's next for the step? Differentiate. For
Do the
doing a
cost-
patent,
No,
sorry.
go ahead.
So for doing a provisional patent application, you should want to budget probably around $7,000 to about $9,000 for a high quality provisional application. Never do it yourself. You get what you pay for there, which is
Right.
nothing. Will be worthless. If this important asset, then you should hire someone who will do a high quality patent application for you. The reason that patentability data is good, because then you build in that differentiation into the patent. And
Okay,
you
so wait a minute,
should,
let's explore that a little bit so that's clear. So you're saying get the data that answers your question and then build that data into your application.
that's right.
Why is that important? I mean, why do you want to build that data? Doesn't that harm you?
Oh, not at all, because the examiner is going to find it anyways. So you might as well plan what you need to argue to differentiate from that. Be sure that you are clearly communicating your unique value proposition to the examiner and compare and contrast to this prior art data, because that's what the examiner will do to you later. So if you don't do it, you're going in blind, right? That's why I say to do that. Mhm.
Very good. I don't have any other questions. That was fantastic. So I think we can wrap it up at this point. I know that you also have put together a book that helps people understand what are all the things they need to do in this space, not just the 2 or 3 topics we talked about. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks for asking. It's actually just out. It is called The IP Miracle, and you can buy it on Amazon or wherever. It's written for entrepreneurs in a way that is consistent with all the legal advice that I've given for over 2 decades, right? So it covers how to think about preparing to document your IP, how to think about how to use it in your business, how to communicate it to investors, to potential customers, to use it in your marketing, and also to think about trademarks as well. How do you combine patent, trademark, copyright, trade secrets, and then how to think about enforcing them when and if you need to. How also to make sure even your contracts with employees and contractors are in place to make sure you own your IP, those assignment clauses, right?
Very good. That's a very comprehensive document. I guess if at all possible, one should really take a look at read these things, because it's only when you get into trouble that you wish you'd done the right thing.
That's
And
right.
oftentimes I get asked, hey, someone is using my IP, what do I do? And I'm like, well, this is something you should have done, but we can try our best to kind of do triage and damage control.
And especially for early stage companies, Jubin, I tend to find that they ask the questions at the worst times, diligence and fundraising or right before an acquisition. That's not the time to find out what you have to fix. Do it right from the beginning, make sure it's high quality, and then you have to continue to invest in it. It's not like filing one patent. You have to think about a continuation practice. Is your product line going to evolve? Then probably your patent family should as well. So it's really a longer term commitment, just like any other asset in the business. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all your time and sharing. Appreciate it, JiNan. I don't have any other thing else, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Jubin. Good to talk with you.
All right.